Today I'm going to walk you through a lesson designed for a fourth grade classroom on teaching theme. The two standards addressed throughout this lesson will be determine a theme of a story, drama, or poem from details in the text and summarize the text. Second, compare and contrast the treatment of similar themes and topics and patterns of events in stories, myths, and traditional literature from different cultures. So before even talking about the word theme, I would kind of engage and inspire students by showing this short little video clip inspired by R.J. Palacios' book Wander, to kind of build background and to see what students already know a little bit before even talking about theme.
I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old kid. I mean, sure, I do ordinary things like I eat ice cream, I ride a bike, I play ball, I have an Xbox, stuff like that makes me ordinary, I guess. And I feel ordinary inside. But I know ordinary kids don't make other ordinary kids run away screaming in playgrounds. I know ordinary kids don't get stared at wherever they go. If I found a magic lamp and I got one wish, I wish that I had a normal face that no one ever noticed at all. I wish that I could walk down the street without people seeing me and doing their own. This is what I think. The only reason I'm not ordinary is that no one sees me. But hey, I'm not good. You can't exactly blend in when you were born to stand out.
Again, this was kind of meant to engage and inspire students before even discussing what theme means, and seeing kind of where they're at, and again, building that background. Next, we would engage in a thoughtful conversation because I want to know, what does it mean to be a true friend? Based off of what we saw here in this short little clip, what does it mean to be a true friend? Can we tell what a person is like just by looking at them? And also inviting them to share other connections or questions that they have. So this is where I would be a little bit of a turning point, and I would ask them at the end, what idea or what skill or concept do you think we're going to be learning about today? So this is where we would kind of hopefully have a turning point, and some students would generate, like main idea, theme, why did we watch this video? And what do you think we're going to be learning about? And by providing these thoughtful questions, hopefully we can get to that point. I think by looking at it visually here, I have this here because a lot of times students think that theme and main idea are the same thing. And you can see here I provided the definition for both. The theme of a story is a moral message or lesson of the story, whereas the main idea of a story tells what it is mostly about. So in this part of the lesson, this is where the scaffolding really begins. This is where they're starting to really kind of dive in. Not with text just yet, but really just ideas. So I would start by having them do a think, pair, share, and think about examples or ideas that maybe they've read about or seen. A lot of Disney movies are great for these kinds of this type of collaboration. So having them do a think, pair, share for a minute or so and talking about ideas for theme versus ideas for main idea. Maybe finding a main idea of different stories that they've read or other things. And then I have this brainstorm bubble because we bring it back whole group. After they do their think, pair, share for a few minutes, then we would work whole group and kind of jot down some ideas on both sides here. Next, to continue scaffolding, theme is a really difficult concept for them to understand. So by providing examples for them to really look at, I think that's so important because a lot of times when I say you can't just come out and say, what is the theme of this story? Because they're going to go on and summarize and give a summary of it. And that's not what we're looking for. So by showing them, common themes or common topics for theme, where, for example, courage, differences, fears, kindness, jealousy, in hopes that they can kind of spark ideas in their heads like, oh, I remember reading about a story about a little boy who never gave up, or oh, I remember reading about a story about honesty or hope or friendship. So by showing them this, that hopefully I can spark their ideas and help help them paint a picture in their mind of what theme means and add another tool to their tool belt. From here, I think it's important for us to look at it as at an example as a whole group. So we've kind of been bouncing back and forth, whole group, think, pair, share, partner work, collaboration. And again, we're going to continue a little bit scaffolding whole group. I chose a video here, or still not in the text just yet, but I chose a video where they could kind of come up with a theme a little bit and talk about it. And I chose something that was somewhat familiar, which is The Boy Who Cried Wolf. I know we have all read it or heard about it or whatever the case may be, but I was just going to show the first couple seconds so that you get the idea.
The Boy Who Cried Wolf, an Aesop fable. Once upon a time there was a young shepherd boy who cared for the village sheep. The boy thought being a shepherd was really boring.
All right, again, kind of looking at this example and choosing something somewhat familiar so that they would be able to generate ideas. And then from there, this is kind of where we go more independent, because after this video and a little bit of discussion, I would have them pull out their notebooks and write these questions down, leaving some space in between, and have them just maybe make bullet points, maybe write sentences, a few sentences for each, and address, what did the author want us to think about here? And what idea stays with you? And what will you remember about the story a year from now? Because this is a great story or a great fable that they can it teaches a good lesson. So again, bringing it back to the idea of the theme of this story is, and having them generate the idea. But this independent work would allow them to I'm providing higher level thinking skills and higher level questioning. So it's not just recall, it's allowing them to dig a little bit deeper and make a connection with themselves after watching this video. Lastly, I wanted to talk about assessment. The assessment piece of this lesson, there's two different types, which we all know. The first one is formative assessment, and there's multiple types of formative assessment I'd be using throughout this lesson, which you can see here, which are asking and answering questions, and I can see, when these students are answering these questions, I can see who understands it. I can see who's starting to grasp it. Also thoughtful conversation, participation, generating ideas when we're brainstorming together, and also just through basic observation. What do I see? Do I see students that are interacting, or do I see one partner doing all the talking, the other one just sitting there, and then bringing it back whole group, who is participating? So these are different formative assessment tools that I can use to gauge student learning. Lastly here, I actually created a summative assessment that this lesson is designed for a whole group lesson. It's not really a mini lesson. It's more of a whole group that would probably take around 30 to 40 minutes. And I probably wouldn't get to this summative assessment part until the following day. But I created an assessment called Show What You Know About Theme. And it's based off of this little passage called Pinky's Promise, which is just a cute little passage that I wanted them to read because I haven't had them dive into the text. But now that they have this big picture in their mind, now that they can use their tools that they've just added to their tool belt. So here I have Show What You Know About Theme, and they would read this passage. I would explain to them that they would read this passage and they can use all of their skills like highlighting, writing in the margins, anything that they think will help them understand this passage a little bit. Here's the second part of this passage. It's a little bit longer, but again, this is fourth grade, so they would be able to do this. And I have here 10 questions, 2 depth of knowledge 1 questions, 4 depth of knowledge 2, and 4 depth of knowledge 3 questions, which you could read here on your own. So that is my lesson, and I hope you enjoyed it.